Welcome to the World United.
Welcome to the World United.
Now, Zach, would you like to say something, Zach?
Oh, yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Anastara, for sharing everything. I had the pleasure of being able to chat with her earlier and following her presentation earlier. And I'm just very grateful for your take and for your the way you express things. It's very uplifting, very enlightening for me. So anyway, thank you for that. Ruben, do you want me to get started now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this is a little bit different, but it's something I like to do. I like to be able to share. The topic today it's kind of an interesting title. That you can do it, and imperfect action is the key. Grab a dream and go for it. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the mindset you need to have, to the courage to suck at something new. Now, I normally don't speak so self-deprecating, but I wanted to kind of soften the sometimes scary expectation of trying something new. So if you approach it with, at the very least, with, well, maybe I'm going to suck at this something new, but at least I'm going to try. And then again, maybe everyone here is not afraid to try something new or listening. But I did want to just hopefully instill in people that you can. So many people, because the problem is many people actually have such a fear of failure that they're not even willing to try. And Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I always say that once we get past the fear of failure, we begin on the path of success. And I've worked long and hard in my life, and especially over the past 15 years, I've tried to build up businesses and produce movies, and I've failed more times than I've succeeded. But I have a mountain of failures that I now use to climb to the top to reach more success personally. Fortunately, I've learned from my failures, more from my failures than my successes. And one of the main things I want to share today is how satisfying it can be when you create something and build something with your own hands, and hopefully help push you in the direction that your soul is already yearning and wanting to go. Some people won't even start out of fear that it won't meet the expectations they have set for themselves, or that it won't match the perception that they think they've created in the eyes of the people around them. There's a saying that when you're 20, you care what everyone thinks. When you're 40, you stop caring what everyone thinks. When you're 60, you realize no one ever cared what you're thinking about in the first place. And I say that, very, flippantly, in the sense that we should care about one another, but, the nuances and the details that we get hung up on and are just unimportant. It's more important that we center ourselves, find where our direction and how we can contribute to the world. If there's one thing that stumbling blocks, that when we stop caring about people in your life, it's like, don't not to stop caring about other people, but sometimes I think we put too much worry on what people think of us, and you just can't care. You can't be bothered by what other people are saying. Not doing it out of spite, but just don't let others stop you before you even start. Don't let others stop you for being, you. There's a line in a song by a band called Interpol that really resonated with me for years. The line says, "You don't trust yourself for at least one moment each day." And there was a time when I was pursuing something very, very difficult, and I was literally doubting myself 100 times a day, but I kept telling myself 101 times not to. And I spent a ridiculous amount of energy with this unnecessary internal battle. They say a wise man learns from his mistakes, but a wiser man learns from others' mistakes, or a woman. But please learn from my mistakes. Don't waste the energy. Trust yourself more. anyhow, so one night I was having dinner in Honolulu with John Petrie and his son-in-law, Todd Papadakis, who's actually very successful in business. And he and I were chatting about some of my projects, and I was telling him some of the level of detail I had taken in some of my projects to be perfect, for lack of a better word. But I was telling him, I'm always looking for more funding and things are taking too long. He said, Zach, you're probably going to be really successful at this, but it may take longer, more time, in the meantime, longer to actually arrive there. So in the meantime, create some other side projects, even if they produce smaller amounts of revenue. Remember, streams make rivers, rivers fill up lakes, and then if your revenue is coming from different sources, you'll be able to actually create reservoirs and reserves so you can actually finance your own projects. And he also said something that stuck with me, that he said, and don't try to make everything perfect. He said, perfection is the enemy to done. So instead of trying to make everything perfect, I started just trying new ideas and just actually getting something done. There's this wonderful master class by Yo-Yo Ma, who's just world renowned, one of the arguably like the greatest cellist. And he said, I'm going to paraphrase, but he was talking about how he actually sought out to actually do a song perfectly from beginning to end. Like that was one of his goals. And he found that when he was doing it and hitting every note and everything perfect, he found that it was actually kind of boring. And he was bored. So he started putting a take on that masterpiece, or that the work that he was playing, and he started adding his new elements into it, and it just made it better. And I think that's what each of us have to do. We need to stop thinking that we have to do it perfect like somebody else, or like somebody else has done, and do it how we would do. Anyway, when we're throwing stuff at the metaphorical wall and seeing what ideas, fix, or what ideas stick and what ideas could work for me, I personally found myself gravitating towards things in which I was already interested, which of course I recommend to you as well. But at the time, I had this hobby of surfing in Honolulu, and I saw a little problem where we were getting surfboards stolen off the tops of people's cars. They would just cut the strap and take the board, and so I created this little device called the rip cage, and I did some research and I found that there was potential for it. But it was fun because interesting. I tell you the story because I ended up not going far down the path, because I realized, I also needed to learn when to let go when it wasn't the best use of my time. But later we also saw a problem as you go to the beaches on North Shore. We realized that you're so far away from food sources, and unless you brought something with you. So we had the bright idea to go to Costco and then bring back and sell hot dogs on the beach. And it was interesting because, we came to find out that you needed like permits, and Hawaii doesn't allow you to sell stuff on the beach without these difficult permits to get. Anyway, you live and learn. And I think that's, these are a few things I've for lack of a better word, sucked at, but I did them anyway. And fortunately, I've learned from all of these. So we also tried something while we were out there. I just have to share a couple of my failures so you can understand that, it's okay to fail. We tried with one of our in-laws. We created this business called Hawaii Cookie Love, where we made these like amazing ice cream sandwiches and homemade cookies, and because it was something I was interested in. I love cookies. Who doesn't love homemade cookies? And anyway, the list goes on of the things we tried to fail at. But with each one of these, it took us down the path of learning and knowing what questions to ask and where to find the answers. And each one of these experiences became more powerful and more informative as we move forward on our other projects. So, like you learn, like, is there a market for it? Is there like other people going to be interested in it? Is it something that's going to be best use of my time? I don't know if you've heard of the story that, because sometimes there's a better time for things. Like there's a thing called the bleeding edge and cutting edge. For example, there's a story that happened at Apple years ago where the Apple engineers came to Steve Jobs and they said, hey, here's this contraption that allows you to play digital songs, and you have them just right on this little device. And Steve Jobs said, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And some time went by, I think about a year or so went by, and he came back and they said, hey, we've got this device. The engineer said, we've got this device that holds music on your, on this, you can put it in your pocket. And Steve Jobs said, that's the greatest idea I've ever heard. And they said, well, what was different between now and then? And he said, well, a year ago or back then, people weren't ready for it. And now people are. And so there's also timing for things, but that's another issue. But again, it's a matter of trying. And of course, it's great that they kept trying. But at the end of the day, I have personally felt such joy and satisfaction in creating when I get something, and that actually sticks. And even if I get a little bit of success from it, it's fun to be able to share the things that we create with one another. And the feeling is so incredible that I've been driven to share that with everyone. And I want everyone to feel that same feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment. That's why I'm constantly encouraging people to utilize their talents and find their passions and find out what they love and, to create and build something. As you can see, just in the few examples I gave you, from cookies to surfing to surfboards and different things, it's a spectrum of things. And there's no right or wrong way to do things. But money shouldn't be the motivation because there are a lot of ways to actually make money and some very unethical ways. Our motivation should be to pursue the passions and the things that we have, that we love to do. And there's a saying that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And there's just so much truth to that. Even the successful actor Jim the answer. Money can obviously solve many of our financial woes. And hearing from a rich and famous actor might make you want to dismiss what he's saying, but it's true. At the end of the day, for us to be truly happy, we need to pursue the things that make us happy, not what we think makes other people happy. We need to try to be the person that, we need to be honest with ourselves and pursue what our hearts desire and what motivates us. And if we end up being wrong and we go down the wrong path, so be it. Have the courage to try, have the courage to suck at something new, as they say. One of my greatest concerns was getting to the end of life and regretting that I have not tried something. That I would rather have tried and failed than have never tried at all. And one of the luxuries of failing so many times early on in my life is I quickly became unafraid of failure. In fact, in many ways, people didn't expect a lot from me, which actually made it easier. So if I succeeded at all, they were pleasantly surprised. But if I failed, they didn't have that high of expectations, which was fortunate, I guess, for me. As another example, I was reading some children's books to my children. I ran into a few that were so incredibly dumb, in my opinion, that I thought to myself that, hey, I can even do a better job at this. And I'm not a children's book author. So last year I started, not being much of a children's book author. I decided to write these 3 children's stories. And going down the path, I realized that there were structures and rules and stanzas and parameters and expectations for children's stories. And of course, I actually got to learn those things as well. And I ended up getting these 3 stories illustrated. And the motivation behind that was mainly I wanted to share with my children, and the stories were kind of based off them, share these kind of, lifelong, these rules for life and these, experiences. So one of my adopted children, I kind of based the story off of him, but the title is called The Hoggamal Monster and the Rude, Crude, Shrewd Biker Dudes. And the story is about this monster that steals these different shoes, and the misconception of these rude, crude, shrewd biker dudes that ended up helping and saving the day, and just kind of these misconceptions and perceptions that people have of one another in life, and that how so many times we are just so wrong. One of my other children, he's adopted. He's half Tongan. He's just this genetic specimen of strength, but he's so big. And so I wrote this book based off of him called The Hug-a-Bunch Bear and the Posse of Possums. And it was fun writing this because there were these these possums that came out, and we're trying to explain to him that he can be too physical, and he can be too, sometimes too loud, and sometimes people are, might be afraid of that. And so just to take a step back and ask for permission, be a little bit more gentle. And the very line at each one of these books says, and if you do this, you'll be a better you, which is always something I think we're trying to strive for. And my daughter, she was kind of at a time where she was having struggle, not sharing much. So I wrote this book called The Hippo Grumpadump and the Army of Sloths. And it goes through the story of how she was treated poorly on the playground. And so she in turn treated others poorly until this army of sloths came in and kind of explained that that's not how you should be doing things. Anyway, it was just a fun exercise, a fun excursion. Now, if I was more insecure, I wouldn't be so open and vulnerable to share these stories because they're not Dr. Seuss books, but it was, but I did them, for one of the main reasons to show that I could literally not being a children's book author, try something new, and they may not even go anywhere. But it was something that I had this passion for, that I still wanted to tell my children these good stories. And so I feel like that it was a success. And I wanted to put into practice what I preach and tell people to try something new often and just see what sticks. I've been asked on many occasions, Zach, what can I do to be successful? What do you recommend at least? And I ask people, I say, first, let me ask you a question. If you, in a perfect world, if you had, let's say, $50 million in the bank, no debt liability, all the toys and assets you could possibly wish for, that for your children's and children's, you'd be set. If you had all that stuff taken care of, what would you be doing with your life? What would you be doing with your time? Then I suggest for people to set some time aside and meditate and ponder what they really want to be doing, with their time. What do you want to have? What do you want to get out of life? How long do you think it's going to take to achieve your goals? And I said, if you ever wake up in the morning with this dread of going to work and feeling sick to your stomach, you're probably going down the wrong path and not fulfilling your full potential. So now I want to ask everyone to think to themselves and question, like right now, like how, if you feel content in everything you're doing, but then again, people aren't always feeling fulfilled. Sometimes we have this thing called divine not being content, and it's something where we need to find out what we each personally have to share. So when you get a moment, jot down some of those things that you want to be doing, and if you had time, whether it feels like a hobby or something that you'd really want to be doing, if you want to go back to school for something, or if you want to actually practice something. I love watching people that are pursuing their dreams because they're not doing it for money. You can tell that they're doing it because it's the passion, the thing that they love. And then once you start jotting down that list of the different ideas that interest you, compare them to a list. First of all, do you like doing this? Second, are you good at this? Or can you be good at this? Third, does it make money? There's actually no particular order, but does it also provide a benefit to mankind? Now, these are all important questions to ask yourself if you're busy working, providing for a family, or just yourself, and you just want to spend some time, and instead of just sitting down and watching, consuming a bunch of media, you can actually take the time and actually try to start hammering out what you think you can actually contribute. But I would also leave you with a few things where, first of all, each one of us needs to invest in our education every day. And I would recommend everyone here to purchase, if they don't already have it, masterclass or an Audible subscription, and just consume a few books a day. In fact, some of the most successful people read a ton. In fact, some people know the Berkshire Hathaway magnate. He spends about 5 or 6 hours a day reading different newspapers and books. The former CEO, actually, I think he reads about 50 books a year, they say. Anyway, Mark Zuckerberg says books allow you to fully explore a topic and immerse yourself into a deeper way than most media does today. And Oprah Winfrey called her her personal path to freedom. She said, books allowed me to see a world beyond the front porch of my grandmother's shotgun house. She said in her acceptance speech in 2004. The Mark Cuban, he also is a huge proponent for reading a ton. But the thing is, you need to remember that you are worth the investment. So spend time and money on continue to educate yourself in the things the areas that you are interested in, and know that you're worth it. Educate yourself more, consume more, and it just brings more enlightenment. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I hope that I've at least softened in sharing some of these stories that trying something new doesn't need to be scary. Even if you go in saying, hey, even if I suck at this, at least I tried something new. And there's always something to learn. They say if you don't succeed, then you learn if you're doing it right. So anyway, thank you for taking the time to listen. And hopefully I was able to share something that might give you the inspiration to actually pursue a little bit more of the passions and desires that you have.
Thank you. Definitely, I think you inspire many people that to pursue that, because if we are not doing what we really get passionate about, I don't think we are doing our mission, because we all came with a specific talent to project into humanity, to help humanity. And I can tell you that very early in life, I discovered my mission. I was having a baby, and I was having this wonderful experience because I took prenatal yoga from the 3rd month on. And wow, I say I have to help mothers to give a birth like that, so naturally, so beautifully. So I started working with mothers, and I started right away. 2 months later, after I had a baby, I started taking the course for instructors. Before I know, I was already teaching. And then from there, I, just took a course in lactation, took a course even in child development, because I do like children too. And I took all kinds of courses that had to do with pregnancy and giving birth and everything. And before I know, everybody was calling me to work with them. I never looked for work. I only was teaching in one clinic, and I was teaching. I just told the clinic, please let me teach. I will ask the mothers to do a donation for the class. And that's all. So I was teaching there when somebody called me and we need you, please come and teach this class, and like that. And the last work I had, I say, a friend called me and I say, do you know a lactation consultant that speaks Spanish? And I say, yes, me. So please come for an interview. We need you. And so, anyway, so it is incredible. I never look for work. Always work came to me because I was working in my passion. So thank you so much. And I'm sorry I didn't introduce you properly.
No, it's totally fine.
But thank you. It has been very enlightening hearing you.
Thank you for letting me share.
And do you want to share a little bit more? I don't think the next speaker is here yet.
I've always been working on brevity. That's why I try to keep my message short. It's one of the things that I'm my whole life. There have been a lot of things I've needed to work on. Oh wait, is this?
Maybe this in the next speaker came.
Oh, maybe it's Nate's there.
No, this is. I'll be moderating the next class or the next sessions, but I don't think,
okay.
I think we've got about an hour before that happens. So I'm not sure if they scheduled this out for maybe lunch, but so I think at least the schedule that I've got now, the next speaker is Dr. Janet Warfield, and that'll happen at 2:00 Pacific time. So we've got just a little bit of time.
Oh, okay.
I think so. So I will stay on this just to kind of answer questions, I think. Thank you so much, everyone. And if there's somebody else here, maybe from If we need to do something else, let me know. But we'll just kind of go from there, I think. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I guess I can leave this thought that I've always been kind of restless, feeling trying to find my path, and there've been so many things that interest me, that I have so much interest in. I just have to know about something, and so I will kind of pursue that and until I feel satisfied in it. And when I find that when I'm reading more, when I'm consuming more knowledge and truth and things that it helps kind of stimulate and it gets me like just more enlightening, and I want to do more, and excites me to do something more. But the reality is I've actually done so many different things. I know I didn't really get much of an introduction, but it's I'm a director and a producer, and I create and write and I tell stories, and I've done documentaries that have won a lot of awards, and I've actually got some big projects I've been working on through the years. But it's and I hope this next year is going to be a big success. But it's fun because it's fun to be able to start seeing your stuff come to fruition once you start on something and finish it. And I think that's ultimately the reason I wanted to share with people, because I wanted other people to feel that everybody has it in them to do something and create something, and it's different for everybody. And we don't need to be comparing ourselves to others. We can use others, and look at others as kind of a model, as to think, okay, how did they achieve success? What did they avoid? What pitfalls? And I think that's kind of one of the reasons I try to encourage and help other people as well. But as soon as we start finding our passions and the things we're excited about, then we're not so concerned about if, what other people are going to think, or what other people, if we're going to do it the way they want us to do it. So anyway, ultimately that's just kind of, I just want to see more people happy, because I just know if more people are pursuing their passions and dreams, then the world's just going to be a happier place.
So true. So true, so true. One time I heard, ask yourself, if you didn't have any kind of limitation, no money, no age, no time, no nothing, not any kind of limitation, what would you dedicate your life to? And many times that's the answer.
Well, but that's what's interesting about that. It's similar to the question that I kind of posed, is that most people actually don't even, or have never thought about that, or may have thought about that as a child before, as the world has kind of taught them, oh, well, you can't do that, or you can't be an astronaut, or no, you got to do this if you want to be a brain surgeon, or whatever. Things might start seeming more complex, but the reality is, like, we can do anything. Humans can do anything. And yeah, we just need to, just posing the question I think is healthy for people, because then it starts to get them thinking, never even thought about that if I had time. I've been so busy having tunnel vision, working on this job or whatever that is they're doing, that sometimes we bury our talents, as they say, and don't develop the gifts that we've been given, or the natural things that we have a propensity for.
That's true. And you mentioned an important point. Deepak Chopra one time told us that he was telling his children, don't worry about the school, don't worry about who's going to support you when you grow up, don't worry about anything. Just meditate. And he started making them meditate, depending on the age, 3 years. It was 3 minutes and like that, very short meditation. But remember, what did you come to do in this planet? Because children know, and they know that we, as you say, as we grow up, we forget, or adults put limitations on us on everything. So yes, that's true. Remember, if you remember what did you used to say as a child, is another way. That's true. You're right. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for the time.
Okay. We're gonna close here, and then I will get out of here. At 3:40, I think I have. At 3:45, you have somebody else in the program, but then it's me. Or 3:30. Is Frida Bisuet?
Yes. So I will be moderating the
Moderating.
moderating. Yes, I will be moderating that second half, but I don't think it starts for another hour. So then we'll have there's Dr. Janet Warfield, Nandiji, Sean Perry, and then at 3:30, you, right, Frida?
Right.
And how do I say your last name? Bisuet?
Bisuet.
Bisuet.
Yes.
Frida Bisuet.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. So I think until so we've got almost an hour, really, right? What time is it?
Right.
Okay, so I've got 2:08 my time, which is an hour behind. So yeah. So in 58 minutes, we should start up with the final session for track 3.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll hang out here.
Okay. Bye.